Remember Roald Dahl, the author of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Matilda, and The Big Friendly Giant? If those titles ring a bell, then chances are you've also heard of The Witches. Published in 1983, The Witches is a book that probably many of us read as kids. It was a classic, and Quentin Blake's illustrations were the cherry on top. Despite most of them resembling hasty scribbles on a napkin, lacking details or backgrounds or colors, I feel like they always managed to deliver the ideas that were presented within each page. As a kid, I read through the book many times in different languages, and each time it was just as interesting as the first time. While looking through my old library a few days ago, I ended up finding the book, and before I knew it, I was sitting comfortably on my couch reading through it again. So, why am I bringing this up? Is this a book analysis? A review? Well, yes, but not really. Today, I want to focus on one specific part of The Witches, a story within the story that I found deeply disturbing. But before we dive into that, let me give a bit of context for those unfamiliar with the book. The Witches is a story about a boy in England who ends up losing both of his parents in a car crash. Now orphaned, he moves in with his grandmother, living in Norway. His grandmother is a woman of faith. She goes to church every morning and prays before each meal, but other than that, she also believes in the existence of witches, which later on turn out to be very real. According to the boy's grandma, witches exist, and their sole purpose on Earth is to get rid of as many children as possible. Witches find children repugnant and have a deep hatred instilled within them. According to his grandma, witches aren't human, though they resemble women. They're bald, but hide it under the wigs. Their claws are concealed by gloves, and their square feet are crammed into uncomfortable shoes. They blend seamlessly into society. Your neighbor, your teacher, even the woman on the bus could be one. They exist everywhere, within every country, but you wouldn't be able to tell. For all you know, a witch might be living next door to you right now, or she might be the woman with the bright eyes who sat opposite you on the bus this morning. During his stay in Norway, the boy's grandmother starts telling him stories about 5 children she knew who ended up as victims of a witch. The first one's name was Ragnhild Hansen. She was 8 years old, playing with her little sister on the lawn. Their mother, who was baking bread in the kitchen, came outside for a breath of air. "Where's Ragnhild?" she asked. "She went away with the tall lady," the little sister said. "What tall lady?" the mother said. "The tall lady in white gloves," the little sister said. "She took Ragnhild by the hand and led her away." And no one ever saw Ragnhild again. Everyone in town searched for miles around, but Ragnhild was never found. The second one I'm going to skip over for now, because that's actually the main focus of the video. We'll get back to her soon. The third child, Birgit Svensson, was turned into a chicken, and she lived for many years in a pen in her parents' garden, even laying eggs which her mother will make delicious omelets out of. The fourth child, a boy named Harold, was turned to stone. One morning, his skin went all grayish-yellow, and by the evening he had turned into a statue, which the parents kept in the house, in their hallway, with visitors leaning their umbrellas up against him. The fifth and final one was perhaps the luckiest out of the bunch, as lucky as such a fate can be. A 9-year-old boy named Leaf, during a summer vacation while swimming, suddenly turned into a porpoise. He spent the whole afternoon giving his brothers and sisters rides on his back, only for him to later on wave his flipper and swim away, never to be seen again. Now, the one thing I wanted to particularly talk about a little bit more in depth is the disappearance of the second child, which is the one I found to be the most terrifying and disturbing out of the 5. There was a family called the Christiansen, with a daughter named Solveg. The family had an old oil painting in the living room, which they were very proud of, with the painting showing some ducks in the yard outside of a farmhouse. There were no people in the painting, just a flock of ducks, a grassy farmyard, and a farmhouse in the background. One day, Solveg came back from school eating an apple, telling her parents that a nice lady had given it to her on the street, and by this point, we already know that something is not alright. The next morning, Solveg had vanished. She wasn't in her bed, in the living room, outside, or anywhere else. She had completely disappeared. But then, all of a sudden, the father, standing in the living room, shouted, "There she is! That's Solveg, feeding the ducks!" He was pointing at the oil painting, and sure enough, Solveg was in it, standing in the farmyard, throwing bread to the ducks out of a basket. As the father rushed to the painting and attempted to touch Solveg, nothing happened. It's as if she was always part of that painting. While no one would ever see Solveg directly moving within the painting, over the years she will be spotted changing her position within it. One day she will be feeding the ducks, another day she will be seen just holding a duck in her arms, and another day simply standing inside of the house, looking over the window, almost as if gazing towards her parents. Not just that, over the years it wouldn't be just her position in the painting that will change, but Solveg's age as well. In 10 years, the little girl had become a young woman. In 30, she was middle-aged. And suddenly, 54 years afterwards, Solveg simply vanished from the painting, never to be seen again. This story haunted me then, and it still does now. There is something uniquely horrifying about the idea of being trapped in an artwork, visible but unreachable, your life ticking by as an observer in a frozen world. Was Solveg conscious? Could she see her parents? Could she move and live freely within the painting's boundaries? Or was she paralyzed in her posed positions, only shifting when no one was looking? The ambiguity makes it all the more unsettling. And while I definitely prefer the book, I have to say that the Witches movie adaptation from 1919 did a fantastic job on this particular scene. The story was tweaked a little. The girl's name is changed from Solveg to Erica, probably to appeal more to an American audience, and little Solveg, or well, Erica, isn't given an apple by what was obviously a witch, rather is simply kidnapped on her way towards the market to buy milk for her parents. Following next, we can see the exact moment when her dad sees her in the painting, simply standing over the windowsill, glaring over them. Over the years, we see her age, changing her position in the painting until she becomes an old woman and inevitably just disappears from the painting. The concept is subtle yet horrifying, psychological horror at its best. The idea of being snatched from reality and trapped in a static, lonely existence resonates on a primal level of fear. For years, this scene has lived rent-free in my head. It's a chilling reminder of how imaginative and unsettling Dahl's storytelling can be. And if you haven't read the book, I will totally recommend for you to do so, especially with the original illustrations. It's a really quick read and you will probably finish it within one afternoon, but I can promise you that it's definitely worth it. So, what do you think? Did this story manage to give you the chills too? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Special thanks to my channel members, your support means the world. If you'd like to join them, you can do so through the join button down below. Until next time, take care and watch out for the witches. Have a good night.